Good evening, you're listening to The Truth Tank, and I am your host, The Tank. If this is your first time listening to The Truth Tank, a big welcome. If you are a repeat listener, welcome back. On tonight's episode, we're going to have a look at the 2023 Academy Awards. We're going to have a look at the good, the bad, the ugly, all the glitz and glamour, the highs, the lows, the weird, as well as who won, who should have won, and who didn't deserve to win, and a lot more. There might be a little background noise on this episode. You might be able to hear the rain. We're coming off the back of a 4-day heat wave, and it's about 20 degrees cooler today, and it's decided to rain. There's a nice cool breeze, but it is humid as fuck. I'm already sweating like a cornered nun. I can't put the fan on because it's too loud, so I've left the window just a little bit open, so hopefully there isn't too much background noise. I did say on a previous show that the Nostradamus episode was going to be next, but I couldn't resist doing a review and recap on the 2023 Academy Awards. I couldn't resist. I love them and hate them at the same time. Oppenheimer and Christopher Nolan were nominated, and I wanted to see if Oppenheimer took home any awards and if Nolan won Best Director. He's one of my favourite directors, so how could I not watch the Academy Awards where he's nominated? He hasn't been nominated all that much. He's made some great films. He tends to get snubbed quite a lot. He wasn't nominated for The Dark Knight nearly 15 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever it was. I think he was nominated for Dunkirk, and that's about the last film I think he was nominated for. He probably should have won several times by now, but that's just how the Academy goes, I guess. Before we get to Nostradamus, there will be a 2-part episode on June. Once again, how could I resist? June is one of my favourite films. I love the world of June and the characters. June Part 2 has just come out, and I couldn't help myself but do a review on that. I'll be doing a pretty in-depth review on June Parts 1 and 2, as well as digging deeper into the mastermind of the June franchise, Mr. Frank Herbert. And then we'll move on to Nostradamus, and then the epic Lie of Communism. Got some good news. It's nearly finished. I've got the last section. I'm about 175 pages in so far. I've pretty much got all the Lenin stuff finished. I just got to finish off Trotsky's story and round out the whole 50-part series. It is going to be truly epic. Last week, March the 7th, marked 2 full years I've been working on this one episode. I mean, there's times I wanted to give up and move on to something else. I'm supposed to be a conspiracy and history show. I've been doing a lot of movie-related episodes lately, well, pretty much for the past year or so. I just haven't had the time to get into another big topic while I'm still researching the Lie of Communism. I did try that, and it just detracted from that, and it was taking longer than it should. I had to double down and stay really disciplined and just write the Lie of Communism every day, which I'm continuing to do. I add to it 5 days a week, and it has grown pretty significantly in the last year. And I didn't want to just do another topic that's going to take me, 3-4 weeks to research, then not put 3 or 4 weeks into that. I really want to get it done. It's fucking annoying the shit out of me. It's this annoying tick in the back of my mind that just keeps saying you got to fucking finish it. It's nearly finished. I did say April the first episode will be out, but that is probably not likely going to happen. It's just not realistic. I'm not sure when the first episode is going to be out, but it's definitely going to be out sometime this year, and it's going to be well worth the wait. I've also been playing around with some AI art apps and generating some artwork for the show. Still trying to figure out what the fuck you're actually supposed to do to get them to look good. But it's been pretty fun so far. So if you've seen the Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to page, you'll see artwork on some of the episodes. I'm slowly working my way through the back catalogue. It's pretty interesting. Some of it's just flat out weird, and other times it really does hit the mark, and sometimes it's just plain strange. You put a basic kind of prompt in and it spits out this kind of weird looking image, and you're thinking, how the fuck did it get that from what I prompted it to do? Then other times you put in a complex prompt and it gives you pretty much what you want, or you give it a couple of prompts and it comes out with something pretty good. The Godzilla -1 artwork was only a couple of lines I put in, and I was really happy with it. You can use the same prompts a couple of different times. I'll cut and paste to different apps and see what they come up with. It's very interesting. It's still pretty flawed, I think, at the moment, but you can tell it's going to get better very quickly and probably become a very good help to a lot of people or a huge societal problem. So while I'm rambling about updates to the show, I'm very close to getting a new computer. My current one, my 13-year-old MacBook Pro with the i2 processor, is still hanging in there, but I can't do what I would like to do with the show. I think it's pretty much done. It's just too old. It's too slow. I can't have guests on the show because I have no memory, the camera doesn't work, and I can't support any of the apps that I would need to have guests on. And it's about time I got myself a new computer. So that's very close to happening. More or less pretty much on track. It probably won't be early April, late April at the best. I'm just trying to find a decent model at a good price. Every time you find one, some prick buys it, and the search starts again. So while I'm rambling about shit, as I just mentioned, this show is supposed to be about history and conspiracy, but I think I'm definitely going to include movies as well. I'd like to dig deeper into some of the themes of movies. I'm a huge film fan, so it's a part of my personality, and I'd like to blend that into the show. I don't want to do every single show as a film review. Maybe if I get Patreon, I could do that as a Patreon bonus, just do film reviews, or as a filler episode. Well, not a filler episode, but a buffer episode in between bigger historical based shows that require more research. So as I just mentioned, this is supposed to be a history and conspiracy show. Just before we get into tonight's episode, there's one thing I'd like to say about a conspiracy that's been popping up in the news, and that is the disappearance of Kate Middleton. She allegedly disappeared or whatever. She's been in hospital undergoing abdominal surgery. There's been a lot of conspiracy theories that she is split with William. The photo of her leaving the hospital was pretty much staged, and so was that other one with him and her in the Range Rover. The bricks on the wall are a different colour to the bricks in the foreground. And then there was the Mother's Day photo that sparked a whole bunch of internet conspiracy theories by a bunch of bored housewives with nothing better to do with the time. All these people are claiming they cracked this grand conspiracy because the picture had been photoshopped. The palace has been doctoring media, photos and videos forever. They've always covered things up and kept their cards very close to their chest. Princess Diana being a prime example. I don't think the Queen had her killed. Why would she? It'd be kind of obvious, and it's not really her style. And this is someone that was fighting in World War II when she was 18 or something or so. She's always put service before petty discrepancies, and look, Diana wasn't the first or the last person to go against the royal family. If that was the motto she was following, Prince William would have disappeared a long time ago. So would Meghan Markle. And look at Prince Andrew. I mean, if anyone needed to disappear, it was him. And no, if they toe the party line, you get looked after. You get your taxpayer cottage out in the country, and you get retired from public duty, like Andrew did. He pops up every once in a while for official ceremonies, but he's kind of on the fringes. He could have spilled the beans on a lot of people, so why not get rid of him? Going back to World War II, was it Prince George, King George, whatever the king was, his brother was pretty much a Nazi. He was meant to be king, and they ended up taking him and his German movie star girlfriend and shipping him off to Norway or somewhere like that because they couldn't have him be king. He wanted to make a deal with Hitler, and if he had it his way, he probably would have opened England up to invasion by the Germans. So his other brother, the one the King's Speech movie is about, he had to take over and become king, even though he didn't want to. And personal relationships is something the Queen can't control, or the King, so I don't really think she would give two fucks who's dating who, just as long as it doesn't make the palace look too bad, or they're not going to spill too many beans. But even then, if they do, I don't think they're going to disappear. It's not the way the British royal family handles things. They're not the United States ABC agencies that have allegedly assassinated standing presidents, such as JFK, or done dodgy shit behind the scenes. The British agencies and the royal family are a bit more sophisticated than that. I'm sure if they wanted to make them disappear, they probably would have a secretive James Bond-esque way of doing it, or not at all. The British motto, after all, is stiff upper lip. They would just ride it out and realise it would blow over, and it would all be forgotten one day. And the conspiracies surrounding Kate about the doctored photo, yes, doctored photos have been a thing the palace has done for a very long time, and it's not just the royal family. Everyone does it. The Australian government has done it. There was a family picture for Easter or Christmas a couple of years ago of the former Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, aka ScoMo or Scunto. The picture was him with his family sitting on a lawn, and the people behind the picture decided to whiten his white canvas shoes. They were dirty and they didn't look like a pair of shoes a Prime Minister would wear, so they decided to whiten them and glam up some of the little details like that. Not a huge thing, but it's still doctored. And the Kate thing, allegedly taken the image of her from the front cover of a 2016 Vogue magazine and overlaid it on an older picture. You don't have to be a Photoshop expert to realise that some of the details were a little off. The bigger question people should be asking is, why did the palace release a doctored photo knowing all too well what is likely to happen? In this day and age, you can't hide much, especially an image like this. They would have had to have known that internet sleuths from all over the world would be tearing this photo apart, analysing every little detail and coming up with a whole bunch of conspiratorial theories behind it. You would think the palace public relations department would be a lot smarter than that, but I'm guessing they're trying to save face because the public wants to know where she is. She's just had abdominal surgery. She's probably not going to be walking around anywhere that quickly. My dad's theory is that she had a hysterectomy. As it turns out, she actually has cancer, and that's why she has been out of the public eye for so long. And they didn't want to tell the kids during school. They wanted to wait till school holidays to reveal the information so the kids didn't have to deal with it. So all those celebrities that said a whole bunch of horrible shit about her on Twitter have now had to come out and apologise, and all the conspiracy theories have more or less been shut down. She released a video explaining where she'd been wearing a white and black striped jumper, and the conspiracy theory started again. People saying this is just a video from 5 years ago. She was wearing the same jumper. It's in the same garden. Yeah, that's probably true. They probably like that location. It probably looks good on film. She's probably wearing the same shit for other continuity, or maybe she just liked the fucking white and black striped jumper. I wear the same shit all the time because I like it. It's comfortable. It looks good. I'm sure Kate is exactly the same. A few people pointed out that her hair is longer, she looks thinner, and she looks visibly older. So why, if it was doctored, would they then use a current image of her face over the top of an alleged older video? And this is something I'll be getting into in the live communism. The Communist Party were notorious for doctoring photos, and this is in an age before computers or Photoshop. So you're probably thinking, how did they do it? Back then, they altered the negative and circulated the updated picture. They'll take one picture, cut it out, and more or less overlay it over the top of the negative, print the photo, then circulate that. There's a famous one I'll be mentioning about one of Lenin's speeches. Trotsky and Stalin are in the corner of the photo. He's on a wooden podium talking to a big crowd, where in actual fact Trotsky and Stalin weren't there or anywhere near where the speech was taking place. Trotsky wasn't even in the country, I don't think. And yet, to save face and make it look like this united Communist Party, they added these two to the bottom of the stage that Lenin was speaking on. And if you look at the photo, it does look a little off. Something about it doesn't look quite right. Back then, doctored photos were a little easier to spot. I mean, Photoshop isn't perfect, and they more or less have the same problems that photos from 100 years ago had. The details weren't quite right, which also makes you wonder why the palace wouldn't spend more time on the finer details, knowing that they were pretty obviously doctored, especially the jumper. You could just tell that wasn't right. But all this comes down to, I think, is just a lack of foresight. I think they were more concerned about reacting to this and quieting public opinion so as not to create conspiracy theories, but in the end they ended up creating a whole bunch of new conspiracy theories. And this is from a government that likes to crack down on conspiracy theories, so what would be the point? Release this photo, create a bunch of conspiracy theories, government cracks down on conspiracies and makes it harder for people to circulate conspiracies, or even start banning conspiracies altogether or fining people. Who knows? I had to say it because it was really annoying. Not everything is part of a grand conspiracy. Sometimes Things that appear to be conspiracies just come down to a lack of foresight and bad judgment. This is episode 55 of The Truth Tank, the Oscars 2023 review, rant and recap.
Imagination, creativity, storytelling, brainstorming, or brainstorming. This is the Brainstorming Project. Join me, Chad, or as I probably should go by now, Brainstorm, each week as I use my overactive imagination to brainstorm ideas. Each week I'll pick a different genre and create a story from scratch. Characters, world, premise, the whole kit and caboodle. The creative process in podcast form. This should be fun. Listen to the Brainstorming Project wherever you get your podcast fix. Join the Brainstorm.
In recent years, there's been a lot of calls to just abolish the Oscars altogether. A lot of people question their place in modern society. A lot of people like myself have called them rigged or massaged in a certain direction. Are the Oscars relevant anymore? Does anyone care? It seems every year less and less people are tuning into the Oscars. The ratings keep dropping. The popularity isn't there. All the grandiose bullshit and all the glitz and glamour has more or less worn off. A lot of people aren't looking at Hollywood as this glamorous fantasy land as they once did. And once again, conspiracies come into this. There's lots of conspiracies surrounding Hollywood. It's very obvious the politics in Hollywood swing one way and not the other, which was painfully evident in the 2023 Academy Awards and pretty much every single Academy Award show for probably the last 5 to 10 years. Are the Oscars relevant anymore? Does anyone give a shit? Do you watch the Oscars? Are they a thing of the past? Do they belong there with the golden age of Hollywood? Or does the Oscars need to have a big revamp and a revitalization and a reformatting to become current in a modern world? And shout out to the Movie Bonus podcast. I was asked by them to present an award for the inaugural Movie Bonus Awards. It's a far superior version to the Oscars. It includes movies that actually deserve it and performances. I presented the nominees for the Best Leading Actor in a Performance. It was a lot of fun. I've been telling everyone I know to check it out. It was a great show. It's a great format. I hope they do it again next year. It was a pleasure being on it. If you'd like an award show that is well thought out and is much more relevant than the Academy Awards, check out the Movie Bonus inaugural Movie Bonus Award show. You can find it on YouTube, and I'm pretty sure it's on their podcast as well. So first up, why, oh why, is Jimmy Kimmel back hosting the Oscars again? Is there nobody on the entire fucking planet that would make a better host than Jimmy Kimmel? He is not funny. He's a fucking tool. His jokes are pretty much all about celebrities or political jokes. He made a dozen political jokes or so, and none of them were funny. He is a fucking puppet of Hollywood. He is not funny, and I do not get why he keeps coming back and hosting the show. I think he's hosted more times than Billy Crystal at this point. Bring Billy Crystal back. Bring anybody. They've had some pretty dodgy hosts in the last 10 to 15 years. The Academy seems to try things, and it doesn't ever really seem to work out. They pick people who, I don't know, seem to be a bit too edgy or edgy by Hollywood standards, so maybe that's the point why they keep asking Kimmel back, because they know he's safe. He's pretty much vanilla ice cream on a warm day. He's not edgy, he's not controversial, he's just a fucking joke. Also got a bit of a bone to pick with Mr. Kimmel. He stole my joke. I had a joke about Cillian Murphy's name on the Movie Bonus Awards. My joke was about the pronunciation of Cillian Murphy's name. It went something like Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, not to be confused with Cillian or Cillian, as I have been referring to him for many years, and I have. I always thought his name was Cillian, and then I've heard other people refer to him as Cillian, or Killian, but the correct pronunciation was Killian. Mr. Kimmel stole my joke. It's written simply, but it's pronounced difficultly, so I'm probably not the only person that has fucked his name up at some point. So I'm not too hurt about it, Mr. Kimmel. The biggest issue the Oscars seem to have every single year is the running time. Jimmy Kimmel made a joke about the running time and how it's longer than most of the Best Picture nominees. I think this year they've had more nominees that were, I think it was like 6 out of the 8 nominees were over 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 20 minutes long. Killers of the Flower Moon was excessively long. There's no need that needed to be 3 hours and 26 minutes. It probably could have been done in 3 or just under. Seems to be a problem with editors not knowing what to cut down and what to leave in. Editing is becoming a dying art form. So I did find it was a bit funny that he mentioned the running time of the Oscars and the Best Picture nominees, where the show goes for more than 3 hours. And one way they could save a bit of time would be cutting down the fucking intro. His opening monologue went for like fucking 10 minutes. They should also cut out the songs, or some other songs, and maybe some of the previews of the Best Picture. I think we get what's been nominated. If you don't know what's nominated, when you're actually at the Academy Awards, there's probably not a lot of hope for you. So it seems a bit excessive. They keep showing previews all throughout the night, which just adds up over time. It's, a couple of minutes, 6 minutes in total. Cut down Kimmel's monologue, make it a 2-minute monologue, and then you've saved yourself fucking 10 minutes already. But then I guess they probably want it to go as long as possible so they can collect more advertisement revenue on it, just like the NFL does, and the NBA. It's also very cringy when you hear a Hollywood crowd laugh. There's so many fake laughs in his opening monologue, which, you'd have to fake laugh because the cunt's not funny. I mean, I've said that many times before. Jimmy Kimmel is not a funny person, and I don't know why he's in the business of telling jokes and hosting a late-night TV show where he's such a unfunny, monotone fucking cunt. And that's also combined with the cringy standing ovations that the people in the front row give to his jokes, and all throughout the night, it's just like, shut the fuck up, sit down, just get on with it, get the awards over with so you can get to the after parties and drink yourself stupid. So the first award up was Best Supporting Actress, and this year they had 5 of the past winners on stage announcing the nominees, which I thought was a bit excessive, and once again this just adds time. One person could have done it so much quicker than 5 of them, because they just waffled on about how good the performance was and how great the actor and actress was. It's just like, fucking get on with it. Best Director has
next award was
one person come out announcing the nominees. That was Steven Spielberg. He can do it. You don't need 5 of the past Best Actors and Best Actresses for the Best Supporting and Best Leading roles. It's just adds way too much time. They don't all need a little monologue, because some of them were just a little weird and seemed very forced and very fake, which I guess fits with Hollywood because it is a plastic funny place. Winner of the Best Supporting Actress went to Davine Joy Rudolph for The Holdovers. I haven't seen it, so I don't know if it's an Oscar-worthy performance or not. She beat a lot of top actresses. She beat Emily Blunt. Maybe she was the best performance, but I got the feeling that here we go again. The Oscars are going to be all about political correctness and diversity and wokeness. She also looked like a giant blue chicken. The dress she was wearing was fucking ridiculous. She cried a lot. She seems like a very nice person and a very deserving winner, so I can't really fault her for that. The alarm bell started going off like this is going to be another woke shit show like last year and the year before, and that the Oscars is going to be all about politics and political correctness and diversity and all that other shit. Or maybe Hollywood has finally woken up and realised that people don't give a shit about their beliefs, because Hollywood is pushing this agenda of diversity and wokeness in all of its media. Disney is a fucking massive contributor to this. It's found its way through superhero films and right around the board. Yes, and some diversity is not a bad thing. I wish a lot more films were diverse. I have no problem with diversity as long as it is organic and it's part of the story. I just hate having it shoved down your fucking throat and the audience made to feel like they're the ones doing something wrong when it was clearly the people in Hollywood who didn't hire certain people based on ethnic backgrounds for fucking decades. Let's never forget, Hollywood is the one that made African Americans and Latinos and Asians and any other minority, Eastern European people, the bad guys in every fucking action and drama film pretty much ever made from like 1960 to about 2015. Let's not forget that and hold Hollywood accountable for the sins of its past. Because it's so quick to point the finger at the audience, blaming them for all of the world's problems, calling them racists and bigots and Trumpers or whatever else they want to call it, the audience, dumbasses who just don't understand diversity and this other woke shit, when deep down it was always Hollywood's fault. We don't make the fucking movies after all. It's got nothing to do with the person that goes to a fucking box office and buys a fucking ticket for fucking $15, does it? I didn't make the last batch of action or crime movies for the last 45 years, and neither did you. So why is diversity and political correctness our fault when it was never on the agenda of any Hollywood executive, director, writer, or whatever for the past 50 or so years? And now all of a sudden let's expand our audience and let's get more money. Let's appear that we give a shit and we're giving minorities a voice they never had. So you were the one that silenced the voice in the first place, not us, not the ticket-paying public that funds these films. Can't remember what my original fucking point was, but let's move on. Hollywood likes to play the piety card. They like to pretend that they're the innocent victim in all of this and that they didn't perpetuate their own problem. Hollywood acts the way a lot of world governments do. They blame the people for their problem and not the decaying system that the government represents. I mean, more or less, it's kind of a version of socialism or communism, Sovietism. They did a similar thing, present this problem, come up with a solution that will lead the people to the promised land and everything will be great and fantastic for you. You get paid more. You won't have to work 15 hours a day until your fingers bleed or you go blind. Just follow this new system of unproven government and life will be so much better. Was it? No, it wasn't. It led to the deaths of millions of people, as we'll find out in the coming months. Hollywood and politics and government and all that shit acts the same way. It's always the citizens' fault that the crime rates are going up. It's never the system behind the government that makes the laws that affects the crime rate. I mean, we're not the ones funding or defunding the police. The government foots the bill for the police force, not the everyday person. I mean, yes, we do foot the bill in the way of taxes, but we don't have a choice of where that money is distributed. That's made by smarter people than the average Joe, because we can't govern ourselves because we're too fucking stupid to do so. So if crime rate goes up in your area, is it your fault, or is it the police's fault, or is it the system behind the police? Is it the people at the top cutting costs? Are they making the police work harder than they should? Do the police have enough support? Do they have enough police officers to do the job, enough time off, enough people doing the paperwork? Because, cops might work 8 hours, but then they got to do another 4 hours of paperwork. Every little thing that happens has to be written down and recorded. Maybe hire some admin people to do that so the cops can go home, spend a few hours with their family before they have to come back and repeat the cycle. I got a little bit off topic there, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to say, because I can't remember my original point. Jimmy Kimmel's jokes were pretty current, pretty edgy. He made a couple of smoking jokes and vaping jokes. I mean, it's hardcore shit, Jimmy. I mean, how they let you on TV. And this led into the Best Animated Short. And the winner of that was War is Over. It looks like a pretty good film. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I'm not a big Beatles fan, so correct me if I'm wrong, but is that John Lennon and Yoko Ono's son, or is that Yoko Ono and someone else's son? Because he kind of looked a little bit like both, but I have no idea. I didn't even know she had a son until Monday. So this leads into Best Animated Feature, and that was The Boy and the Heron. Mark Hamill has been promoting that movie quite a lot. I think he does one of the voices in it. Not my cup of tea. I'm not really big into animation. so I might have to give that one a pass. And despite the tediously long monologue, the show does start to flow around now. They get through a couple of awards pretty quickly. They seem to do like clusters of awards. I think they've done that in previous years, but this year it just seemed a little more noticeable. They kind of did like 2 or 3 awards in small groups, got that done, and then moved on to like a best song or a preview or another joke about some relevant political issue, then back to another award or a big award like best actor or something, and then they had the 5 past winners come out and waffle on for 3 or 4 minutes about how miraculous and spectacular the actors nominated were. And this is the point in the show that Melissa McCarthy and that other funny woman came out. I can't remember her fucking name. I've seen her in so much stuff, but I don't know who she is. They came out and made a whole bunch of jokes, and this is kind of what I was just talking about. They did like a mini stand-up set. It was like 3 minutes of waffling on, making these semi-funny jokes about relevant issues. It's like, shut the fuck up and just read the nominees and get on with it. She was funnier than Jimmy Kimmel, I give her that, but a house brick is funnier than that prick. This award was Best Original Screenplay, or Best Adapted, I can't fucking remember which one it was. Godzilla Minus One was nominated, so I was definitely rooting for that. I think the award went to Anatomy of a Fall. The film looks interesting, I wouldn't mind seeing it, but I heard it's pretty good. My brother raved about that film, but he likes a lot of weird shit. American Fiction was nominated. That looks like an interesting film, I will say. I do like Jeffrey Wright. I'll have to watch that sometime. The writing awards tend to be pretty early on, and sometimes they give us a clear indication of who might win Best Picture. I've always thought, how can you win Best Picture and then not win Best Screenplay? Because you can't really have the Best Picture without the screenplay to begin with. But the winner of that was Cord Jefferson. I did like his speech. He was a 40-year-old writer or filmmaker, I can't really remember. It's his first film. He said, yeah, don't give up on your dreams because they can come true if you work hard for them. He also, in a fun way, takes aim at Hollywood. He was saying that Hollywood seems to be very risk-averse. They would rather make movies about superheroes and these gigantic $200 million blockbusters. He was saying, why doesn't Hollywood make $10 million movies rather than one $200 million blockbuster that appears to be a safer bet, when in this day and age it's not, because you look at the biggest films last year and they all underperformed. They all got their ass kicked in the box office, especially the latest crop of Disney films. Indiana Jones didn't do very well. The last Marvel film, The Marvels, did pathetically. And these are all $200 million plus blockbusters that didn't bust the box office. Next award up was Makeup and Hair Design, and this went to that charming little film, Poor Things. I was thinking, really, Poor Things? There's a lot of films that look like they probably should have won that rather than Poor Things. I haven't seen it, just like a lot of the other nominated films this year. I've heard mixed reviews. Some people say it's complete trash. Movie Boners called it grooming, posing as feminism, and that's about all I need to know about it. What else do they say? They said at best it's a disabled girl being taken advantage of and groomed by rich weirdos. Yeah, that movie seems like a bit of a controversial choice, especially for a Hollywood that has been accused of a lot of dodgy shit. I actually had to look up the synopsis of this film because I have no idea what it's about. And this is what I found. Brought back to life by an unorthodox scientist, a young woman runs off with a lawyer on a whirlwind adventure across the continents. Free from the prejudices of her times, she grows steadfast in her purpose to stand for equality and liberation. Yeah, it's definitely a grooming, posing as feminism film. Poor Things win also marked the second or third snub for Oppenheimer, so I was starting to think at this point that, oh no, here we go again. And this is going to be like last year where All Quiet on the Western Front really should have won Best Picture and pretty much everything else. And that Everything Everywhere All at Once bullshit, or whatever the fuck it's called, ended up winning absolutely everything. It won so many awards so close together, you really had to question the validity of the Academy Awards. It's like, it came off very much like the Oscars was rigged, or all the judges just seemed to love this quirky film made by a couple of dudes from college who make music videos and some other weird film that no one has seen. I can't even remember that film being in the cinema. I don't know anyone who's seen it. I've never seen it on a streaming service or to buy. So this weird film comes out of nowhere and wins a whole bunch of Academy Awards, and it just seems so fucking rigged because last year had some good movies like Elvis, All Quiet on the Western Front, and a couple of other films I can't remember. It's about that this time I'm starting to think that Poor Things is going to be this year's Everywhere, Everything, Whatever the Fuck All at Once. And Oppenheimer, the film that deserves to win, was going to get snubbed. Next award up was production design, and this is a hard category. Depending on the film, it could go either way. If you have a big historical epic like Napoleon, that's a hell of a lot of production design. You need everything to be period. In the case of Napoleon, that's lots of ships and France in the 1700s, lots of battlefields and costumes and shit like that. A movie like June, that's a whole futuristic world you have to create. And the award went to Poor Things. That was the second win in a row for Poor Things, and I was starting to think that all hope is gone and Poor Things is going to take home everything. I just said that I hadn't seen the film, but it doesn't seem like a film that really should have won production design when a film like Napoleon, even though that wasn't the greatest film ever, a film like Napoleon seems like the production design probably would have been a bit harder or grander than Poor Things. There's a couple of other really good nominees too. Oppenheimer was another one. Yeah, it beat Oppenheimer. Like, Oppenheimer should have won just for the fact that it didn't use a single fucking green screen or special effect in the film. All the sets were practically built. The Los Alamos set felt alive. It felt like you were there in the 1940s. I mentioned that on the review I did of it. There's a scene where Oppenheimer is talking to a couple of other scientists and there's just people walking around in the window behind him or on the side of him. It's got this three-dimensional kind of look. You can see all of the walls in the building. It feels like a camera was just in the corner filming him talking, and there's this whole world going by just outside. And when he drives into Los Alamos and the boom gate goes up, he passes the checkpoints and there's all the houses, the church, the shops, all the people walking around, going to the houses and stuff. It feels like a real living, breathing place. Poor Things might deserve to win, but it just seems like it was another stacked category and it came away with the award over much more deserving films, historical period films. It's around this point that I'm starting to think that Poor Things is the quirky, weirdo PC film the Academy is favouring this year. So this brings up the controversial moment of the awards show, and that was the Naked John Cena sketch. I actually thought it was pretty funny. It was a little risque for the Academy Awards. If that was a female in the same position, I don't think anyone would have been laughing. If it's a naked man, it's funny. If it's a naked woman, it's sexist, offensive, and non-PC. Cena handled it like a professional, and when he crab walks out from the side of the stage, covering himself with the nominee envelope, it actually does look like he is completely nude. He probably wasn't. He was probably wearing something, because he wouldn't want to accidentally drop that on national television. That would have been pretty funny. But if he was, 10 points for him, because he's got some fucking big balls to pull that off. And ironically, he was presenting the award for Best Costume Design. If there was a Best Physique award, he definitely should have won. And the award goes to Poor Things again. So my hopes are really dipping at this point. Is it a coincidence that a feminist propaganda movie wins a Best Costume Oscar when the male presenting it is nearly completely nude? Kimmel gave him what looked like it was a toga made out of the curtains on the stage, and after the award he went backstage and shook hands with The Rock. That was a highlight of the show for me. The Rock and Cena. I was hoping they were going to start wrestling, but you can't get everything you want. The nude gag, it worked. Shows the Academy is a little risque, but at the same time, fuck you, Academy. Think of something half original. Like giving Oscars to deserving winners. The woman that won Best Costume Design for Poor Things, I'm pretty sure it was for Best Costume Design, she had these really weird, kind of grotesque earrings. They were like two eyeballs. One looked like it was kind of bloody, with these crescent moon things hanging off the bottom of them. Was this Hollywood telling us that they're controlled by the Illuminati? Was she an Illuminatist? Or was he just trying to be edgy and weird for the sake of it? Because after seeing that Ice Spice purple haired freak from Taylor Swift's Entourage from the Super Bowl with her inverted purple cross necklace, you can kind of see how people buy into conspiracy theories about Hollywood and all these celebrities being a bunch of weird Satanists. Because the eyeball earrings, yeah, it might have been quirky, but it was not really appropriate for the Academy Awards, especially if you're going to be on TV. I mean, it wasn't ultra religious or anti-religious, but it was kind of weird. Like I'm pretty sure the second eyeball was like bloody and it looked gross. Is the Illuminati really controlling everybody? Was that winner an Illuminatist? Because when you see things like that, it's kind of like the people that run Hollywood saying, fuck you, haha, we're getting away with this shit. We are blatantly flaunting this symbolism in front of your face and you can't do anything about it. Or maybe it was just a giant joke and that was the point. So I've been talking about cutting out best songs. Best song is up next. I really did enjoy seeing the Osage Nation play the song from Killers of the Flower Moon in their traditional attire. It's about time there was some more Native American representation in the Academy Awards, because that's a group that has definitely missed out for several decades. Ever since Marlon Brando had a Native American woman decline his Academy Award win like 40 years ago, I don't think I've actually seen too much Native American representation. And that's definitely a group that has been missed by the Academy. They're so concerned about including everybody else, they forget their own Indigenous people. And Indigenous people around the world don't have a voice at the Academy. That's not just American Indians. A lot of Native people get overlooked in film festivals right around the world. That's not me trying to sound woke. I'm merely trying to highlight the hypocrisy of the Academy and of Hollywood. You're a forgotten minority if you appear on Hollywood's radar, and they need to apologise to you in some way. If not, you can just go fuck yourself. So next up, The Rock and Bad Bunny present the award for Best International Film. I don't quite know why Bad Bunny was there. I mentioned this on my previous Oscars show. This just seems like they're picking a presenter that will be popular / cool with the kids to get a new generation interested in the Oscars. Because in previous years they've had other quote-unquote hip celebrities, mainly from the music world, as presenters, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense because they didn't have anything to do with any of the films that are nominated or really anything to do with the film industry. They just seem to be there because they're popular with other groups outside of the demographic that usually tunes into the Oscars. I don't remember who it was last year. I'm pretty sure it was some obscure musician or someone who, a trending musician at the time. I reckon the year before that it was Tony Hawk. Or was it Tony Hawk last year? It just seemed completely random, and I reckon they've done surfers and stuff, and I think even business people. Now, I don't know if I'm just imagining it, but I'm pretty sure Jeff Bezos was at one of them. I can't really remember. Also, there was a lack of Netflix and Amazon Prime nominees this year. In previous years, the streaming services have really been pushing to make Oscar bait type of films. All Quiet on the Western Front is a Netflix production. And I'm not sure if any of the best nominees this year were streaming service produced. There may have been one or two, but I'm pretty sure there are all traditional studio produced films. Is this the studio hitting back at the streaming services? Or are the streaming services in decline? In previous years, several of the Best Picture winners and Best Foreign Film winners have all been from Netflix. Roma was one that comes to mind, All Quiet on the Western Front, and a few others. So The Rock and Bad Bunny present Best International Film. The Rock probably should have done a few more buttons up, but hey, it's a new and exciting frontier of fashion, so what do I know? So Best International Film went to Zone of Interest. There's another one that's on my list to see. It looks interesting. And this kind of brings up the question, and I mentioned this last year. If you're nominated for Best Picture in the international category and for Best Picture overall, should that be allowed? And if you do win in the international category, shouldn't you also win Best Picture? Because where do you want to draw the line? Because Zone of Interest is a British produced film. You can't really say that a British film is international, because like I've also mentioned, the Oscars are supposed to be for movies, not just American films. A lot of the films were more than likely produced by multiple nationalities. And that was an argument of last year's Academy Awards. Where are you going to draw the line between the best film overall and a best international film? Because someone mentioned that in this article I did read, because you're kind of segregating the film based on language. And a couple of years ago, a film that was shot in Atlanta with an American Asian actor and director and writer was called an international film, even though half of the film was actually in English and was made in the United States. That caused controversy. A lot of people were saying that, did the Academy even bother to watch the film? Or were they just merely looking at who was in it and decided that was international? Because I didn't even know Zone of Interest was an international film. I figured it was a British film, but like I wouldn't class a British film as an international film. I mean, I guess every film in its own right is an international film, but isn't the Oscars supposed to be inclusive for all? It also goes back to what I was saying about the Academy is in desperate need of more categories. Fuck off all your Jimmy Kimmel jokes and all your political commentary and all that other shit and the previews and the songs and all that other shit crap. Include more relevant categories such as Best Hollywood Film or Best Blockbuster Film, Best Superhero Film, Best Comedy. Like, what happened to the comedy and musical section? Best Comedy and Musical, Best Drama, Best Action Film. You can go so much deeper with what films are included. The Academy has been so obsessed with including everyone or what it deems to be the most relevant social groups in the film world that it actually excludes 90% of the films that are made each year, probably more than 90%. And I guarantee if you started incorporating sci-fi, superhero and blockbuster action movies into the Academy Awards every year, more people are going to turn in and more people are going to tune in and watch them. I did enjoy the next part. It was the Barbieheimer segment. Ryan Gosling from Barbie, obviously, looking sharp in his suit, and Emily Blunt from Oppenheimer talked about the importance of stunts and in movies and how they're the real unsung heroes. At the start of the show, they brought out a bunch of Teamsters and stuff and people who helped with the behind-the-scenes parts of the Academy Awards and the movies and all that stuff. Hollywood's kind of finally acknowledging the people that make it work. That was pretty cool. Maybe there needs to be an award of some type for those people. That was cool, seeing the real people behind the scenes and not just all the pretty glamorous people in the seats on TV. But unfortunately, there isn't a Best Stunt award, so it kind of seemed a little pointless. They talked about the importance of stuntmen and how they do all the dangerous stuff that looks good on screen. They had a montage of famous stunt scenes from various movies, and that was it. If there wasn't a Best Stunt award handed out, this part does come off like pure time wasting because the only thing it really achieves is extending the running time of the show. Because there was no Best Stunt award or Best Choreography. Maybe that's another category they could include, Best Choreography. I mean, stunts make up such a huge part of movies. Even basic movies have some level of stunt, so why not include it? Why have Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, two of the most pretty people in Hollywood, come out and talk about stunts without actually giving an award for Best Stunts? Doesn't make a lot of sense. The next award was the hotly anticipated Best Supporting Actor. It's a very stacked category, like most of the categories this year, and much like Best Supporting Actress, the 5 past Best Supporting Actor winners come on stage to say a few words about the nominees. It extended the running time. Some of it was a little corny and sometimes it was a bit disingenuous. Maybe they should just go back to the one person presenting the award rather than having to 5 people say 5 different things about 5 different Best Supporting Actors. But I guess this is the Academy staying relevant rather than actually listening to what the people want. And this is one of the big surprises of the night. Robert Downey Jr. won Best Supporting Actor for Oppenheimer, and deservingly so. His performance as Lewis Strauss is masterful. Most of his scenes are in black and white, and it's a completely different Robert Downey Jr. than we're used to seeing, which pretty much is just Tony Stark in the last 10 years and a couple of other roles. I like him as Sherlock Holmes. He's a fucking fantastic actor, and it was really good to see him finally get the recognition he deserves. And this is a guy that's had a very checkered past in Hollywood. It was only like 20 years ago he was caught speeding on a Los Angeles highway with 2 hookers in the back of his car and a suitcase full of blow on the front seat as high as a kite. He's had his issues and he's come back stronger every time, and he looks fucking fantastic for his age. Was he late 50s? He looks great. He definitely played it cool. He didn't let it get to him. He didn't get overly emotional and start blubbering about how he has the best job in the world and everyone else's job is irrelevant and they suck. He just kept his cool. He even had this slight cockiness about him, but I think it was more just the way he shows being humble. Like, he was very genuine. I'm not saying he was being cocky or anything, but he was generally humble. He had this cool swagger about him, was classy, but he also had this edge to him. He come up on stage and was doing the Tony Stark peace signs, which was really cool. I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, but it was still really funny to see. A nice little nod to where that character has taken him in the last 12, 13 years. When the first Iron Man come out, like, was it 2007? I think it was a year before The Dark Knight. So well done to Robert Downey Jr., well deserved. I did like the comment he made about his wife is the best veterinarian, finding this stray animal and fixing him up and putting him back together. He had a very funny speech, which was it was refreshing to see, because a lot of the speeches, they get so emotional and so caught up in their own emotions in the moment, and they start blubbering and falling to pieces. I just like how cool, calm and collected he was. And the dog in the front row liked his speech too. That was pretty funny. I know it's an old gag with the clapping paws, but that was fucking funny. They didn't overuse the dog either. It only popped up 3 times during the show, which I think was probably enough. The dog was much funnier than Jimmy Kimmel and could probably have done a hell of a lot better job at hosting. The next part, besides all the Oppenheimer wins, was definitely a top 5 moment of the night for me, and that was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito reunited again. It was really cool to see the twins back. They were pretty fucking funny. They presented 2 awards. There was a standing ovation. This time it was probably warranted. During the jokes and stuff, you can fuck off with your standing ovations. When you have moments like this that actually represent iconic films and 2 beloved actors on stage again, it is kind of more of a special moment than Jimmy Kimmel making a joke about Donald Trump or vaping. Their Batman jokes were one of the funniest parts of the night. Michael Keaton was there presenting. He was also in the front row, and the look on his face was fucking priceless. He had this like mean, deadpan look on his face. It looked like he was half offended but half still in the character of Batman. He could easily play Batman again. I know he was Batman in The Flash, but he could do a standalone Michael Keaton Batman film. It's very funny when he does the Bring It, because both Arnold and Danny DeVito have fought different versions of Batman. So Arnold and Danny present the award for Best Visual Effects. The award for Best Visual Effects went to the very well-deserving Godzilla -1. That made me very happy. My previous 2 episodes were on Godzilla -1 and the history of Godzilla, so if you haven't heard them, press pause, go ahead and listen to them right now. It's a bit of a shameless plug, but it's my show, so I don't give a fuck. The entire effects team was Japanese and came up on stage with Godzilla toys and a photo, I guess, of one of the producer of the film or someone who had passed away that had something to do with -1. It was a bit hard to understand them. They were talking quite fast and they had very thick accents and it was very hard to understand. But they were very humble, and rather than picking some massive film, because there was some juggernaut films in the effects category, one of which being Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. What else was nominated? Flash wasn't nominated for obvious reasons. Guardians of the Galaxy 2. What else was there? There were a few other big action films nominated. The visual effects category is about the only category action, sci-fi and superhero films get nominated in. But it went to a very well-deserving film, especially considering it only cost $15 million to make, and Guardians of the Galaxy and Indiana Jones cost a considerable amount more. Even though the effects in Godzilla -1 aren't perfect, they're fucking fantastic. It shows what you can do, and It also stuck with the theme of lower budgeted films taking home awards over these massive productions such as Guardians of the Galaxy and Indy 5. Because Oppenheimer only cost like $100 million to make, which was, like a third of the budget of Dial of Destiny. And Godzilla was much the same. It only cost $15 million over Guardians' $250 million budget, and it was a well-deserved winner. This year, there was also a lot of anti-Hollywood films winning, and a lot of anti-Hollywood traditional big blockbuster sentiments, which makes me think, is there a change happening in Hollywood? Are audiences favouring smaller, low-budget productions over the colossal, quote-unquote, summer blockbuster? I mean, yeah, I love summer blockbusters, but you don't have to have $300 million budgets to make good films. It was proved several times last year that that's just not the case. It's also a bit annoying because they cut the speeches of the Japanese effects crew short. They don't cut the actor or actress, director or film or the bigger awards short, just the tech categories, because I guess they're not important or pretty enough. Which is annoying, because when you have an award where there's like 5 to 6 people all win an award, they should all have the right to say something. Yeah, I know you can't talk for 10 minutes because it gets boring and it runs on, but if each of them is allowed to say a couple of words, that's better than nothing. It's better than being the guy that had to wait for the first dude who waffled on for 2 minutes about how supportive his wife was, and then he comes up to the microphone to say, "Thanks, we won," and the music's already queued up and they've already cut the mic. And he looks like a complete and utter knob on national television. So next up was editing, and that went to Oppenheimer, and rightfully so, because that wouldn't have been an easy film to edit, let alone make. Next year I'm calling it. I think June's going to win for best editing, best cinematography, best sound, visual effects, hopefully best picture and best director, because that film is a masterpiece. It might be science fiction, but it is damn sure probably going to be the best film that comes out this year. The year's just begun cinema-wise, but I'm calling it now. And if it's not nominated, fucking boycott Hollywood. If it's not nominated, then include a fucking category for science fiction and action films, because it's fucking bullshit that great films like June miss out just because they're in a certain genre of film. Hollywood only considers dramas to be the best film, which is just fucking bullshit, because there's so many great films in different categories. And it's artistic, art's in the eye of the beholder. Oppenheimer's best editing win also marks another Oscar for Oppenheimer, so things are starting to look up. Poor Things hasn't won for a while, so maybe the Academy has course corrected and written the wrongs of the past. Dare I even say it, Hollywood is unwoke, because so far the best films seem to win, and it's not an easy task to pick a best winner, but it's also not the most impossible either. It's around this point I'm starting to get that sinking feeling that this might be the last Oscar that Oppenheimer receives, and it might get snubbed on Best Actor, Best Picture, Best Director, the same way Elvis did last year. The Don Julio part was pretty funny. I nearly took him seriously for a minute when he said he was going to toast everybody in attendance. They made a running time joke. There were several running time jokes Jimmy Kimmel made, which makes me think the Academy is more than aware of the running time issues with the Oscars, but doesn't seem to want to do anything about it. And by having more or less a comedy skit halfway through an award show, doesn't really do much to alleviate the length of the running time. Yeah, the Don Julio part was funny, the bottles looked cool. Most of the celebrities in the front row got a Don Julio bottle, but it's just extending the running time of the awards, and it just comes off like a piece of paid promotion, and it probably was. The tequila company probably paid a lot of money to the Academy to come up with a skit to include its tequila, so it just came off like a massive product placement and just added 4 minutes to the running time. It was pretty funny when Jimmy Kimmel takes a sip of the Don Julio in between presenting. I mean, take a real sip. You hardly got any tequila. In those situations, you have to go all in, otherwise you just look like an absolute wanker in front of the entire world. Best Documentary Short was up next. Kate McKinnon and someone else, I can't remember who, came out to present the award. And just like Melissa McCarthy's segment, there was a whole bunch more unnecessary jokes. Some of them were pretty funny. The Jeff Goldblum and Jurassic Park joke. She said Jurassic Park was a documentary and it cut back to Spielberg, and there was a tasteful nude joke. Spielberg was pretty funny. He went along with it. But I just added running time. They presented the award for Best Documentary, which went to 20 Days in Mariupol. Seems like a pretty deserving winner. It was an important subject. The director was very humble and grateful. He had a very powerful and real speech. He said he would exchange his Oscar for peace and going back in history and having the city the way it was. It also marked the first Ukrainian Oscar in history. So the next award was Best Cinematography, and this went to Oppenheimer. And rightfully so. The black and white combined with the use of IMAX wouldn't have been an easy thing to achieve. It was also another tech category, so I'm starting to think, is this another All Quiet on the Western Front scenario where it wins all the tech categories and a few of the major ones, but then gets snubbed overall for Best Director and Best Picture. Best Short Film was next, and Wes Anderson won, and that was his first Oscar. I thought he had won before. He wasn't there in person. Jimmy Kimmel's joke about him staying at home building a model out of corduroy was kind of funny. I'll give him that. There's a couple of people who couldn't attend, so there was no speeches or anything. It also makes you wonder, you'd be pretty pissed off if there wasn't a legit reason why you had to miss it, because even if I was doing a movie, I think I'd take a couple of days off just to go, because that might be the only one you win. And then, you don't get the glory of going up and giving your acceptance speech, because that's half the fun of it, right? And physically getting the Oscar from someone, that's part of the magic of the ceremony, holding it and looking at it for the first time. Then there was another song, and this one was The Fire Inside. It was crap, and it didn't really deserve to be nominated for an Oscar. It's a pretty basic, generic pop song. The best song category in recent years has become very relaxed with what gets nominated. They pick popular songs like songs from Barbie. This seems to be the category these type of films really get nominated for. It's for music and song. But they pick some really basic, crappy sounding songs sometimes, and this was one of them. Can't remember what film it was from. So the next award went to Best Sound, and the winner of that was John Mulaney. That's pretty funny. He did give a bit of a off-key, long-winded speech. He won for Zone of Interest, I'm pretty sure. I think Oppenheimer probably should have won for that, just on the grounds that it was my favourite film of the year, and it's Christopher Nolan. But most of these just experimental sounds they use in it. The IMAX, those zoomed in scenes of the atoms and stuff smashing and nuclear bombs. It was all very realistic. But whatever, I'm not picking the awards. He was also dressed a little casually for the Oscars. I've noticed that in recent years a lot of the guys have been dressing a bit more casually. This guy's wearing like sneakers with a suit, which I'm a fan of. Don't have anything against it. Just maybe pick some decent sneakers and not just a silver pair of Vans or Converse looking, basic looking sneakers. You have to go Jordans or Air Force Ones, something like that. I think he was also wearing a trilby hat or a pork pie hat, and that looked a bit weird. Next up was one of the highlights of the night, and that was Ryan Gosling's rendition of the Ken song from Barbie. It was pretty funny. He had a black hat and a pink sequenced suit on. He was sitting in his seat next to Margot Robbie where the song starts. Then it progressed to a big and over-the-top choreographed number on stage. The instruments were pink. The guys playing the instruments were wearing pink shirts. Everyone had pink on. And some of the backup dancers were the other Kens in the movie. I really got to see Barbie. I can't remember why I didn't see it in the cinema. I was planning on seeing it, but I can't remember if I just didn't get around to it or something better came out. But I guess I'm going to have to see it. And then there was about 100 people on stage, and just when you think it couldn't get any better than that, Slash appears out of nowhere playing a guitar solo, which is pretty cool. I mean, who doesn't like Slash? Yeah, he's always a good way to take something that's pretty good and make it completely over the top. in a good way. Best original score was up next. I'm pretty sure the nominees were presented by Ariana Grande and someone else. Ariana Grande looks like she needs to eat something. She looks like she's been starving herself a little too extremely. I actually can't remember who won Best Original Score. I remember, pretty sure it was Ludwig Göransson for Oppenheimer. Once again, well deserved. That's a incredible soundtrack. It's very Hans Zimmerish. Hans Zimmer wasn't available because he was doing June. And I think Ludwig might be the next Hans Zimmer. He's only young. His career has only just started, more or less. So he's definitely a composer to watch, especially for Nolan films and those big, epic, dramatic films. He's definitely one to keep your eye on. That also marked another win for Oppenheimer. So the Oscars are stacking up for Oppenheimer. It's won Best Score, Best Editing, Best Supporting Actor. Emily Blunt got snubbed for Best Supporting Actress. And I'm pretty sure it won something else. So it's around 4-5 awards at this point. However, the pattern of wins is very similar to All Quiet on the Western Front last year, which ultimately got snubbed from about here on out. Next award is Best Song, and that went to Billie Eilish and what's her fucking brother's name? Finnis McGullen, Eugene Finnis, I can't remember his fucking name. They won their second Oscar, if you can believe it. The first one being for No Time to Die, which is one of my least favourite of the modern Bond songs, and I wasn't really that impressed with the Barbie song. It's too slow. A couple of months ago I was driving and that song came on. I didn't even know it was from the Barbie song or it was Billie Eilish. It made me so fucking angry I had to change the radio station. It's so annoyingly slow. You just want it to fucking speed up and get to the point, but it doesn't. And that won. Can't agree with that, but, you know, I'm not picking the winners, so my opinion doesn't really count. Up next was the In Memoriam, the saddest part of the show. There was a heartfelt and also politically motivated, but politically motivated in the right sense. There was a clip of Alexander Navalny from the Navalny documentary that won Best Doco last year. That's 2 anti-Russian documentaries that have won in 2 years. Interesting. There wasn't many celebrities wearing blue and yellow Ukrainian pins in show of support this year. I saw a few Palestinian pins, but I didn't see any Ukrainian ones this year. How quickly celebrities forget one cause and go on to another. So as I was saying, there's a clip of Navalny from the documentary. In the clip he is saying that if he is killed, it means that the opposition is getting stronger. And hopefully he is right. Hopefully the opposition is gaining movement in Russia. Not like we in the Western world would ever really find out because, you know, the news is pretty censored. And they had the famous quote, "The only thing necessary for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing," which is a quote he said in the movie, which is an older quote. I can't remember what it's from. I did think the dances in the Memoriam part were a bit unnecessary. I think it's powerful enough just having the images with the sad music. There also seemed to be some names that popped up at the end of it. I'm guessing these people didn't make the Memoriam real, or they may have passed at a later date, which was too late to be included, or they just weren't recognisable enough. But they have people that don't really get seen in the movie industry. And I can't remember other years where they've just had other names that popped up. Maybe this is for time constraints, but I don't know, it seems a little disrespectful, because isn't that the point, is to take a couple of moments to acknowledge those who have passed in the industry? Isn't that what it's all about? You know, maybe cut out some of Kimmel's jokes and some other filler bullshit and extend a more important part of the show. So after the In Memoriam comes one of the bigger awards of the night, and that is Best Actor. Once again, 5 previous Best Actors all said a couple of words about the nominees. Tim Robbins did fuck up a bit. He looked like he was a bit embarrassed. It nearly looked like he gave away the winner, and he knew it, but that wasn't the case. And Oppenheimer wins again. Cillian, not to be confused with Cillian or Cillian Murphy, Cillian Murphy wins Best Actor, and well deserved. He went above and beyond in Oppenheimer. It's a truly masterful and impressive performance. He's been a great actor for decades now. He's always been a bit of an underrated leading man in modern day Hollywood, in my opinion. I don't think he's ever quite got the credit he deserved, and now he finally has. His long collaboration with Christopher Nolan finally paid off. I liked his speech. There was a lot of grateful speeches this year. Everyone seemed very humble. There was not too much over-the-top ass-kissing of the Academy. I get the impression he was generally surprised that he won. Once again, it was a stacked category. There was many great actors, and I really think he was generally surprised that he won. I mean, Oppenheimer's a very interesting character. He puts his heart and soul into it, and it paid off. Going back to the past Best Actor winners, Brendan Fraser was obviously there from last year. It looks like he's lost a bit of weight. He's starting to look good again after the weight he put on for The Whale, and he had been out of shape for quite a while. A bit of a side note, I loved the way Matthew McConaughey was dressed. Brown shoes, black pants, brown vest, and brown tuxedo. No one wears brown anymore, and Matthew McConaughey really pulls it off. I guess he's used to wearing like ochre because he's a Longhorns fan. Brown definitely suits him, and the brown tuxedo with the black trim looked really fucking cool. I might have to get one. Some people can pull it off, others can't. I guess brown was a colour you used to see a lot in the 70s, but hasn't been seen a lot since. Nicolas Cage was also up there. He looks okay. He looked like he'd been doing cocaine for a couple of days and hadn't slept, but besides that, he looked alright. I did notice a lot of lapel and tie bling this year from a lot of the guys in the crowd. Whether that means something or it's just people trying to be more creative. I mean, I'd wear a lapel brooch of some type. It looks cool. Cillian's Best Actor Award also marks both Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor wins for Oppenheimer. So Oppenheimer is really on a roll now, and I'm starting to think this might take home the grand prize. We've still got Best Actress, Director, and Picture to come, but I'm a bit hopeful now that Oppenheimer might actually clean up. After Best Actor was my favourite award, and that is Best Director. Pretty stacked category. I obviously favour Christopher Nolan. He is by far the greatest director of the current generation, him and Denis Villeneuve. Nolan's body of work speaks for itself. He has made the best superhero movies, mind-bending sci-fi, action thrillers, dramas, and historical biopics. He cannot be denied at this point. There's no one else that even comes close to him. People go just to see a Christopher Nolan film. He's one of the few directors where people will actually go to see a film because of the director and not the star in it. Nolan is also nominated in the same category as the legend himself, Martin Scorsese, for Killers of the Flower Moon. Very tough and stacked category. However, Christopher Nolan prevails and wins the Academy Award for Best Director. It's his first Oscar, and it's for directing. It's well deserved. I loved his speech. He was humble and grateful, and thanked his producer for putting the Oppenheimer book, American Prometheus, in his hands, which obviously kickstarted the whole idea of making an Oppenheimer film. He was very humble, and it was really good to see the Best Director win. Martin Scorsese has won Best Director, I think, twice, or maybe it was once. Much like Christopher Nolan, Marty should have won for most of the films he's made over the years. But like I've said on previous Oscars show, it's all about the Oscars campaign and the bullshit you have to go through to try to show the Academy you deserve to win, or you end up winning an Oscar for a film that was nominated this year where you really should have won in the previous year. That's also known as the Apology Oscar, which Scorsese has been the victim of. Either way, he still won. I think it's one he's won. He's been nominated about 12 times, but he's only won one for Best Director and I think one or two for Best Picture. Similar to Nolan, he's been nominated a lot. He hasn't been nominated in a while. Nolan should have got Best Director for pretty much everything he's made since The Dark Knight, but you can't win it all. And he finally got one for the film that deserved to get the Oscar. So this marks another win for Oppenheimer. I'm starting to get very confident that it's going to take out Best Picture at this point. Best Director was presented by Steven Spielberg, and this is another highlight of the night for me. Steven Spielberg presenting the award for Best Director to Christopher Nolan, and the hug between Nolan and Spielberg backstage. They were walking with their hands around each other, and he gave him a hug afterwards. It was really nice seeing the mutual respect directors have for each other, especially when one great director acknowledges a current great director. He might have been acknowledging his successor as the greatest director of the current generation. I was also a little surprised because Poor Things hasn't been mentioned for at least an hour now. It's pretty much been all Oppenheimer wins so far. And I'm starting to think that the Oscars has gone unwoke. It's a little hard to believe. The Oscars loves to surprise you and throw a curveball when you least suspect it. But I was thinking, this can't be right. The best film is actually winning for a change, which is what the Oscars is meant to be about. Or is it? So it's 2 in a row, Best Actor, Best Director, both for Oppenheimer. So up next is Best Actress. And that went to Emma Stone for Poor Things. She generally looked surprised as well. Can't say I blame her. I haven't seen the movie, but given who she was nominated against, it does seem that this might have been woke Hollywood's last PC diversity pick for the night. I'm not saying Emma Stone isn't a good actress. I mean, she's a good actress. I haven't seen anything she's been in a very long time. I haven't seen Poor Things, but Emma Stone to me was the redhead from teenage comedies like Superbad. I haven't seen her in a lot of dramatic roles. I'm not sure she's done that many. I kind of thought Annette Bening was going to win. She looked pretty pissed that she didn't, hiding behind her blue sunglasses. Because that has happened before. They have the younger up-and-coming actress who turns in a good performance, who loses to the veteran. Like every time Meryl Streep is nominated for something, she always wins, no matter what it is. And she's beaten out far better actresses who've turned in much better performances. She's won 4 or 5 Oscars now for Best Actress. I mean, I guess she's just very good at playing the campaign trail and sucking up to the right people. Can't remember who won last year. There's a lot of people saying Margot Robbie should have been nominated for Barbie, or Barbie should have been nominated for Best Picture or Best Director. I'm not sure the Barbie debate holds up, because Barbie might have been a commercially successful film. It might be a great film. It's just not an Oscar-level film, and I think the Academy was humouring it with the music and sound and production design awards, and including the Ken song in the performances. Greta Gerwig might be a fantastic director. I just don't think Barbie is the film that should get nominated with the Oscars, because where do you draw the line? Because they do include films like that pretty much every year now, or every couple of years they do the non-dramatic film. It's basically there just purely as a novelty. It never wins. It's just there to say, hey, look, we're including different films. We're diverse. We care about all types of films, where in reality it's not going to win. It's just there to get people to tune in. And this goes back to what I was saying about including more categories. Include Best Comedy and Musical. I mean, I'm not sure what to class Barbie as, but it's not drama. Include that in the musical or comedy category. I mean, I'm sure you could pick 5 films that are released every year that in the musical or comedy category that you could nominate. And that way you don't have to include it in the dramatic Best Picture categories. You can have its own, because it's not going to win up against films like Killers of the Flower Moon or Oppenheimer. And if it does, then you really know the Oscars is 100% rigged. So Emma Stone, her dress broke going up on stage. It's nice to see celebrities have these problems as well. She generally looked shocked. Her speech was good. She got a bit emotional. I'm going to have to see Poor Things, but yeah, I haven't heard the best things about that. I try to see as many of the nominated films as possible to see for myself if they're worth watching. Some Oscars films, yeah, are great, and others are the most boring, unwatchable films you can think of. And once again, we are treated to the comic delights of Jimmy Kimmel. He's wearing a gold jacket at this time, and here he sinks to a new low in one of his most politically correct and unfunny jokes of the night, and that is the MAGA joke directed at Donald Trump. We all know Hollywood is liberal as fuck, but you've just gone and shouted it from the rooftops. Yes, it's an election year, but keep politics out of movies. There's no place for it, as I've said over and over and over again. Fuck off Hollywood with your politics and lecturing to people about global issues and political issues you don't understand. Make movies, make entertainment, keep it as that. Because what does Hollywood know about politics? Nothing. I don't know why they're so interested in it and why they are so against one side over the other when both sides are equally as bad. The Liberals aren't the ones that are going to come charging up with the fucking flag of the people and make everything better. I mean, 4 years that hasn't been the case, and the other side, the Republicans, isn't much better. If anyone truly thinks politicians have the best interests of the people at heart, they are horribly mistaken. Politicians only look out for politicians and the companies that pay them their bribe money to bullshit laws through Parliament. So Kimmel launches into his Donald Trump attack, reading off a tweet where he says, oh, that unfunny host, Jimmy Kimmel, yada yada yada. Was it a real tweet or X, whatever the fuck you call him now? Or was this purely for comedic sake? If it was an actual tweet, yeah, I mean, Donald Trump would do that. But at the same time, reading it out on live TV probably isn't the best thing to do, considering in a couple of months' time he probably will be president again, and we'll probably have a hit squad come after Jimmy Kimmel or have his TV show shut down, hypothetically. So now we get to the biggest award of the night, and that is Best Picture. Al Pacino presents the award for Best Picture. He looked a little confused. I'm not a ageist person, but maybe they should have made sure he knew what he was doing, because as I remember it, he doesn't read the nominations. Doesn't, to my recollection, read off the nominees. He opened up the envelope and he said, oh, to my eyes, that looks like Oppenheimer, and took some of the suspense and effect away from the winner is opening the envelope and reading off the winner. He kind of just got the envelope, opened it, and that was that. And the night goes to Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer wins Best Picture, and rightfully so. It was the best film of last year. So Nolan, in one night, takes home not one, but 2 Academy Awards. He didn't actually talk this time. He let his wife and producer, Emma Thomas, do most of the talking, as well as a couple of other people. I mean, he had just been up on stage accepting the Best Director award, so he probably didn't have much to add in that regard. Everyone was on the stage. Josh Hartnett was in the background. It was good to see him. The only issue I had with Emma Thomas's speech was, we've been dreaming about this for so many years. Make movies to make movies. Don't make movies to win awards. Because I don't think Christopher Nolan makes movies to win awards. He makes movies for himself and to make movies for the audience. So that was a little gripe I had. It kind of made it sound like you're making films for the wrong reasons, but maybe that's just me being overly picky. I will say, I think he's one of the producers of the film, or he was one of the writers of Oppenheimer. He was someone in the background. He had won before. He had the silver shoes and the long hair. He won one of the technical categories earlier on in the night. He got his phone out, and his phone had a bright orangey red cover on it, and he's filming this on stage, which I thought was a little unprofessional, given it was live television. Well, maybe, have a black cover on the phone and camouflage it a bit, because it's right behind Christopher Nolan and it's stuck out like dog balls. Yes, if you want to capture the moment, that's great, but you probably will get a copy of it from the Academy. I'm sure you're going to see it on YouTube or something, or maybe even get a hard copy of it. If you were going to film it, maybe move to the background so the main cameras can't see you and you're not standing right behind the director. That's just another little gripe I had. Call me old-fashioned. So at this point, the Oppenheimer cast and crew are on stage, and there is a lot of Oscars floating around, and it marks one of the few times in recent memory that the best film, the best filmmakers, the best actors actually won. And they all seem to have won, except for Emily Blunt in the other technical category nominations. I guess you can't have them all win, otherwise it definitely looks like the Oscars are in fact rigged. I mentioned a few years ago on the Oscars campaign trail episodes I did that Christopher Nolan doesn't like playing by the Academy's rules, and he doesn't like doing the parties and doing the campaign trail and shaking all their hands and sucking up to the right people. Whether he did this or not this time, maybe, maybe not, but you also don't have people like Harvey Weinstein bribing everybody, so his films that he produced won, as is the case with Saving Private Ryan versus Shakespeare in Love. Saving Private Ryan, clearly the better film by 1,000%, but yet Shakespeare in Love, a dramatic comedy, somehow wins. And that kind of goes with the Barbie debate is, how can a film like that compete against big dramatic juggernauts? In the years when Harvey Weinstein was active, those films could win because he would fucking more or less bribe the Academy and go on the campaign trail. He would circulate fake news stories about trouble on the set of Saving Private Ryan, or Spielberg pushing actors around, which is completely bullshit. He'd host lavish parties, rub shoulders with the right people, and win. And he'd have actresses praising him in their acceptance speeches like he was the greatest thing ever. And look at him now. And the fact that Christopher Nolan didn't talk again shows you what a cool person he actually is. I got a lot of respect for that. He had said his piece. He didn't need the extra glory. He didn't want to take it away from other people who worked on the film. He had his moment in the spotlight by himself. It was time for the other producers of the film to say their bit and have their time in the limelight. Much respect and congratulations to Christopher Nolan and Oppenheimer on taking home 7 Academy Awards. It's been a while since a single film has done that well, and it being a big popular film, I think that's even more impressive because like last year, the Academy loves to choose those quirky, ridiculous movies that no one's ever seen or heard of since, or low budget films that are okay, but they're not really that good when you see them, such as the case as Nomadland. I think I've mentioned that before. It's a good movie. It's just not a great film. It's definitely not an Oscar-worthy film, I don't think. It's just a standard 3-star drama, in my opinion. But I'm not picking the awards, so who cares? So Kimmel closes out the show with a couple of other not funny jokes. Confetti starts falling from the sky, which I think is a bit over the top in this day and age. If you really wanted to do it right, there should have been much more gold and white confetti pouring from the ceiling. It seems to be one side of the stage and it looks a bit piss weak, like they could only afford one bag of it. The night started woke and got progressively less woke. I was actually very surprised. The best film won for a change, and it seemed shorter. It went over the slotted time on TV by 15 minutes or so, but it didn't seem as tedious as previous years. It definitely wasn't as tedious as last year. It started about 10:30 my time and finished about 1:20, 1:25. Didn't seem that long, but that might be just me. It might have just seemed shorter because Oppenheimer won quite a lot and I was rooting for that film to do well. They do end on a high note besides Oppenheimer cleaning up, and that is the dog from the start of the show that hasn't been seen in a while, lifting its leg, about to take a piss on Matt Damon's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I thought that was pretty funny. A little edgy for the Academy. Why Matt Damon? Why does he deserve to get peed on by a dog? I don't know. Maybe I missed that part of the joke, but it was funny.
Welcome to the Dead Podcast. I'm your host, Desi, and on this podcast, I discuss all things spooky and weird, from ghosts, demons, religion, to folklore, urban legends, true crime, and all things paranormal, with some horror movie reviews sprinkled in. So join me on this spooky ride.
Alright, that brings us to the end of the show. A big thank you to everyone who put up with my ranting, reviewing, and raving about the 2024 Oscars. It might have been a bit tedious, but I had to get it off my chest. But the good news is you won't have to hear me ramble about the Academy Awards for at least another year. I got a lot more episodes recorded and planned for the year, so definitely stick around for them. Next episode should be out in a couple of weeks. Live Communism is nearly done, the writing part of it anyway, and that should be going into production in the not too distant future. That's going to be epic, and it's probably going to take me a very long time to get them all out. But it's going to be worth it. They'll be released in installments. They're going to be theatrical. They're not going to be boring facts. It's going to be more structured like a film. I hope you will do me the honour of listening to them. I have worked very hard on it, and it'd be nice to know the hard work is appreciated. I have a few other episodes already recorded. I'm slowly editing through them. It's taking a long time, but I'll get there. So there should be a lot more episodes to come. Right, big thank you to everyone who listened to the end of the show. If you'd like to support the Truth Tank, there's a couple of things you can do. Head on over to the Facebook and Instagram page, give it a follow and a like. You can download your favourite episodes of the Truth Tank on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, if that's still a thing in the future, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, YouTube, Stitcher, or wherever else you get your podcasts from. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell people you work with or anyone else you think might like the podcast. Help spread the word and get the show out there. Word of mouth is still a great way to get found. If you feel so inclined, you can rate and review the Truth Tank on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leave it a 5-star rating and review. Every review helps the show grow, and it'd be greatly appreciated by yours truly. I should be back in the next couple of weeks with a brand new episode, but until then, I'm a Tank. This is the truth. May the truth be with you.
Stop.